Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoterica. We got a fun and unexpected episode for you guys this Friday afternoon because about 48 hours ago I received my Meta Quest 3. I've been playing with it ever since and I figured I would do a review on a new device. Because even though I love all things retro gaming, arcade, and FPGA gaming, I also love VR and own a ton of headsets because it kind of brings the classic arcade genre experience into VR. A lot of light gun games and you know I absolutely love those. So I figured I would do a review of the Quest 3, talk about the pros and cons of the hardware, how it improved over previous generations, and just kind of discuss the idea of VR to see if you guys want to see more of it on the channel. Because honestly, I play a ton of VR. Things like Pistol Whip here aren't exactly light gun games like you remember them in the arcade, but they are so incredibly close. VR, as far as a platform is concerned, brings a lot of those type of games that I loved in the 90s and early 2000s home, so that's why I do want to talk about it at least a little bit. But as far as the hardware is concerned, the Quest 3 is a fundamental improvement over the hardware that came before it, and Quest 2 was no slouch in that department either. We have all of these different cameras and sensors on the front, which are going to improve hand tracking and controller tracking fundamentally more than you would expect them to, and as far as pass-through is concerned, it is a much higher resolution screen. I can actually text from my phone looking through it now, which used to be a complete mess. You also have a couple other cameras on the side, and then you're going to have a little rocker switch, which can be multifunction. It is a nice placement. You can really reach when you're in VR and articulate it however you want. But my favorite feature is the IPD adjustment wheel on the other side of the headset itself. The engineers at Meta were smart and made this wheel so that you couldn't accidentally bump it and adjust it. It takes some movement and you can't really screw it up in-game. Now on the engineering decisions that I wish someone had reconsidered, the headphone jack is on the right hand side of the headset, and pretty much every headphone pair in the world is going to have the cable coming out of the left. Really wish they'd inverted that around. But on the speaker front within the actual headset itself, these sound pretty good. No built-in speaker is ever going to do as good of a job as headphones, but you can 100% get away with these and the audio quality is quite improved. On the other side, you have a button for power, and then you also have the USB-C in for power, things like getting this out to a PC. I just wish they had switched around the USB and the headphone port. I think it would have been much better as far as the design is concerned. Now onto the fit and comfort, a huge thing for any VR headset. Obviously my face is a certain shape and yours is going to be different, so it might be comfortable to me but not as comfortable to you. But the foam is absolutely incredible. Until you get down to the nose bridge, it does taper off to fit the contours of your average face, but there is not enough padding here. It does slightly become uncomfortable, and I feel like I'm inclined to be able to judge this specifically well because I used to do engineering for goggles for Burton snowboards, so the fit around the nose is super important, and I would say this plastic here lets in a little bit of light, and it's slightly uncomfortable on my face for long-term wear, at least for the first 2 days. So it might be something in this interface material right here. You may want to switch that out for a third-party solution in the future depending on your comfort level. But as far as the lenses are concerned, these are absolutely incredible. They are a pancake design, not a Fresnel lens, something that I use a lot in film and lights. It's a technology I'm very familiar with, and while it works really well for VR, I love the pancake better. And on the resolution side, you get 2064 by 2208, which is a big resolution bump. These screens look absolutely incredible. It's just not something that ever articulates on camera, but take my word for it, they are fundamentally better. Now onto things that really haven't changed whatsoever are going to be the head strap that comes in the box. This is 100% a serviceable item. It gets the job done. It's like a B- across the board. It is no better or no worse than the Oculus 2 outside of one little aspect on the back that I will mention shortly. But you get your Velcro adjustment up front and you get these two spreader adjustments in the back. But the width and the fact that these are covered in fabric on the Quest 3 is fundamentally better in my opinion than on the Quest 2 for comfort level. But when you get this strap adjusted correctly with the weight of the headset, which is extremely similar to the Quest 2, and you get your skull shape right in that triangle, it is quite comfortable, maybe not for the long term. But on the Quest 2, those adjustment pieces always dug into my scalp. It always bothered me, so having them wider and being covered in fabric on the Quest 3, 10 out of 10 improvement, even though pretty much everything else is the same. Now onto other vast improvements for Quest 3 are going to be the controllers. They no longer have a gigantic halo around them, which is going to be huge. But as far as the button placement, the analog sticks, the triggers, they are all really good. You get a couple of very thin straps. I never put them on my hands. I usually do cut these off, but tell me down below if you think that's stupid. I've never thrown a VR controller yet. but in the hand, at least for my hand, they fit extremely well. Now, I fully admit that I don't have the biggest hands in the world. I'm only 5'6", guys. I am not a tall person, so maybe if you're like 6'4", this might be a little small in your hand, but it 100% works for me. And around the back, you have 2 triggers as well, and the overall shape and ergonomics of them just 100% feels great. They've done a good job as far as the human interface is concerned in the engineering department to give these such a good shape, and I do love the battery door now. Having this little clip here, you can't drop the battery door off in gameplay if your hands get slippery. It can be slightly hard to put back on, but honestly, it's not the worst thing in the world, and I do love that it is just AA's, no recharging whatsoever. But again, in the hand, these things just fit so well for me. With prolonged game sessions, I played Pistol Whip for like 2 hours last night. Everything just worked incredibly well. And we have to talk about the improvement to the controllers from the Quest 2 over to the Quest 3. Because on the 2, and these were still nice controllers, these halos in gameplay would always hit themselves together, especially in games like shooters or light gun arcade style games. I would constantly clack them together and it would take me out of the immersion. Where something like the Quest 3 controllers, without that halo whatsoever, you can really cross over yourself, you can be on top of one another as far as your hands and controllers are concerned, and it works so well. And if we go back to Pistol Whip here, you can see as I cross the guns over themselves, kind of making motions, because I knew I was using it for this video, you can just get so much closer. It feels so much better in the hand. Having those halos gone is just a massive improvement. I never want to go back to them. It just 100% works better as a technology than the Quest 2 controller ever did. I just think that I never want to go back to the big plastic halo around my hand when I play VR now, and I do love PSVR 2. There's some great games on there, some exclusives, but honestly the big plastic ring around my hand has never done it for me. It does break immersion a little bit, so it's a 10 out of 10 on the Quest 3 controllers. I can't think of anything that I would want them to do differently, and I just think that the Quest 3 is overall a much better version of this hardware than the Quest 2 was. The screens are better, the fit is better on the face, the inside out camera tracking, all of the pass through, it's just a huge improvement. So even if you own a Quest 2 and you're thinking about maybe upgrading, it might actually be time. And if you own an original Quest, definitely an upgrade would be in order. And if you don't own any of these, tell me down below if you're interested in VR. I will say the front of the box looks quite nice, but they could have done a lot more with the back for people that care about it. It is just wholly boring. It looks like an Apple product and not in a good way. But obviously, something like this, a headset and controllers, will never die by the games that are on the platform, and I always use Pistol Whip to test anything. I've been playing this game for years. I absolutely love it. It is a ton of fun, and getting right into the game, the hand tracking, the headset, all of everything that is going on just 100% works. And I apologize if the little bit of the boundary shows up in the footage. I had to capture this in a different room because my wife was working in my main work area. But honestly, this just feels incredible. The tracking on the Quest 2 was no slouch whatsoever, but I feel more accurate in Pistol Whip than I ever have. All of the tracking, all of the motion, the better resolution on the screens just helps artwork like this sing. And if you do own a Quest headset or any other VR headset where Pistol Whip is available and you haven't played it yet, 100% check it out. This is just absolutely spectacular. It's basically a music rhythm game meets an arcade on rails light gun shooter, and that's a lot of the reason I'm so into VR. I love light gun games back in the 90s and 2000s. If you watch my channel for all of the arcade and retro gaming content, you will know that. VR gives me those genres back that I thought were going to be gone forever. Since the inception of VR headsets back with the Vive and Oculus, these sort of games were definitely part and parcel of the experiences we got, and that is why I own 5 different VR headsets, and I'm constantly getting new ones to try them out and test them. But tell me down below, do you own a VR headset? Are you interested in VR content? If this video does well, maybe I'll make some more of these in the future, videos on games that kind of emulate the arcade experience or new VR experiences in general. But honestly, playing Pistol Whip on the new Oculus Quest 3 almost felt like playing the game new for the first time again. The graphics on the higher resolution screens just look so much better, and I also think that something that I've never read in a review is the actual color profile within the screens themselves looks better as well. All of these vibrant colors, these pastels, these neons, the color rendition on the new Quest 3 just has a lot more punch to it. That red in the backgrounds never looked as red until I got it in Quest 3. Honestly, the screens as well are just spectacular. You can't go wrong with this. Everything basically just works. And that's why I love this Quest 3 so much. And if you're wondering, no, nobody sent this to me for free. I'm not being paid for this review. The money came out of my wallet. It's for the channel, and it's just for me to kind of play around with. But that's what I think about the new Oculus Quest 3. It is just a fundamental improvement over the previous hardware that came before it, and if you haven't jumped into VR yet, this would be a great place to start from. And if you're interested in seeing a video on how to make this work with your PC for PC VR, something like Steam, playing Half-Life Alyx, let me know down below because I've been thinking about doing it. But honestly, this video is mostly an experiment to see if there's an appetite for my channel in VR content, because I do own a lot of headsets, I do love the technology, and I am excited to play my Quest 3. Short of that, if you want a VR headset, you could do a lot worse than this one. See you next time. Bye bye.